In today's video, we're going to show you how to remove the rear bumper of an Audi R8 V10 Plus. Hey, this is Bryan. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. On this R8 V10 Plus behind me, we are getting ready to install a Capristo exhaust. And a popular question is, well, how do you remove the bumper? So before we get into this in the next video, we want to show you how to remove the bumper. Now, you may be removing it for something like a Capristo exhaust, or maybe you're just wrapping your car and you're curious on how to do it. So for that reason, we're going to split today's video up. Today's video is going to be how to remove the rear bumper, and the next video is how to install a Capristo exhaust. Let's get started. Now, the first part of this process is we need to pop this rear glass here so that we can get to some of these trim components. If you haven't done it yet, there's a little button behind the driver's seat that we're going to show you in just 1 minute, but just keep in mind that you can't do it with the car off. The car has to be in accessory mode or actually started. So with that, let me show you where that button is. Okay, so the car is in accessory mode, and you just go over here, hold that up, and it'll pop the rear hatch. Now, the next part of the process is we need to make sure that everything is protected because there's a lot of things that have to happen. We're gonna have to take apart this part, the part with the wing on it, and then also over here. So what I like to do is I like to get some painter's tape, and basically you are just going to line it up on every seam. For the next part of the process, we need to get the car off the ground so that we can remove the rear wheels. Now, we are going to be doing this on our bend pack lift today, but a lift is not necessary. You can completely do this with a jack and jack stands, but for better camera angles, we're gonna bring it up on the lift. Now, when you're removing the wheels off of your Audi, there are two very important tools that you need. First, you need this little plastic cap puller. This should be in your Audi toolbox, but if it's not, we're gonna have a link for you down in the description. And then you're also going to want to have one of these bolts here. And basically what this does is it acts as a hanger. So we're going to take one bolt out, we're going to hand thread this in. If you look in here, there is very little room between the wheel and also the brake caliper. So what you do is you have one of these pins in here, and it enables you to safely dodge all of the very expensive brake components. As you can see, this car has the carbon ceramic brake package. Not cheap, these wheels, not cheap, and you wanna make sure that they never make contact. So with that, let's just pull these little plastic caps off. So if you haven't used one of these before, you just slide it on, pull them off. All right, and now we have the 17mm bolts exposed. Now what you're going to need is a deep well socket for your 17mm. We always recommend having one with a plastic sleeve like the Kies one that we have here. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the top bolt, just like that. Then we're going to take our M14 by 1.5 hanger, and you're just gonna basically just hand thread this in until it stops. You don't have to go crazy tight or anything, because you still have to get it out. Okay, so that's good there. Then you can remove the rest of the wheel lugs. Then once you've done that, just carefully wiggle it off, and then just slide it right off your pin, and that's gonna make sure that you don't hit anything. Now, there's quite a bit of dirt and debris up here, so we're just gonna give it a quick little vacuum so we don't spread dirt and sand everywhere. Okay, once you've done that, we're gonna remove this because we're gonna need it for the other side. The first tool you'll need to remove this liner is a 10mm. So these are pretty loosely tightened on here, but these are just a plastic 10mm nut. So looks just like that. So I'm gonna do, I got a little cup. We're gonna collect them in my cup as I go. And as you can see, you don't even really need a ratchet. They're so loose. There's one up here. Another one over here. And there's one up here. Then there's one straight on. Then you're gonna need a T30. There's a bolt up here that looks like that. And then there's another one right over here. And there's a third one over here. Then we can get these, put them in our cup so we don't lose them. Then you can remove all the T25s. which will look like that. And put it in the cup. So then we have one of these little plastic rivets. So the way that these work, I like to take a 90-degree pick tool, and then you can pull out the center. And then the rest of it, here's my pick tool here. The rest of it will come out pretty easy, just like that. And then once you go to put it back in, you put this piece in, and then you click this piece and it locks it in place. Then once you have everything in the wheel well, there's one more T25 that goes through the diffuser, and this is typically the one that people forget about. Then at this point, you should be able to get your wheel liner out. Pretty much the only thing it's gonna get stuck on are the edges, so just make sure that you pull the edges down, and then also those little bolts that stick out that had the 10mm nuts. So just work your way across here. You may wanna wear some safety glasses because there is a tremendous amount of junk behind this thing. Okay, so then just kind of pinch it so it doesn't touch any of your paint. Just pull it out like that. Now that we have the wheel liner out on this side, we are going to go over, we're just gonna time lapse it for you because you already know how to do it, but I'm going to go pull the wheel liner in the rear passenger side. Now that we have both wheel liners off, I'm going to raise the car up a little bit so we can take the underbody protection off. Now we're going to need those same tools we used to remove the fender liners, but let's start with our T30. We'll remove all the T30s. Okay, once you've done all that, we're gonna put these in a separate cup. I like to keep all of the nuts and bolts separated so we know exactly where they go. From there, we are going to go back and we're going to get our T25 again. I missed. You're going to get your pick tool. You're going to remove these plastic rivets, and there are just 5 of them holding this in. Again, I like to use this 90-degree pick tool. I think it makes it pretty easy. And especially if someone has already removed it before and it's all kind of bent up from a screwdriver, this makes it so you can kind of grab the middle. It makes it just a little bit easier to pull it down. Now I'm gonna leave this part in right now. I'm gonna also just take out the middle portion if I can of this one. And then those two are pretty much gonna hold it in place so I can get these two, and then we will pull this the rest of the way down after we get these two out. There we go. Watch your eyes once you get this down. You always want to make sure it's away from your body when you pull it down. Okay. So you just rock it down like this, slide it out, and here's all of our junk. Okay, so now we need to remove the T30s that are holding the diffuser onto the car. Right in my cup. Now you can get out your T25 again, and there's 2 screws here, and then 2 on the other side. All right, so right now everything is pretty loose underneath. We need to lower the car quite a bit so that we can access some other things in the wheel wells, and then also up top. There's also a couple things that are securing it in the back of the car. So with that, let's drop the car about 5 feet or so, and we'll continue with the project. Okay, so now with our T25, we're going to release all these little T25s here so that we can get the heat shield off. We'll continue to work our way up the side of the bumper here. Okay, and then don't forget this one. Okay, then remove this middle one here. We'll see if we can get this one with the drill. Okay, then with the T30, remove this one. And then this one. And then with a T25, remove this, and then the entire shield will come down. Then there's a little T25 way back here. It's about right here, and this is holding the rear part of the bumper. together. You're just gonna have to release that, okay? And there it is. These are way tighter than you'd ever think. What we typically try to do is start with a little ratchet. We have this little T25 on a ratchet, and then I switch to a driver once it's free to spin. But getting it to initially break, very difficult with a regular driver. Make sure you use some kind of ratchet. Then don't forget this T25. So right now we are on the passenger rear, and there's one connection that we need to do. So what you do is you just take a flathead and you pull this up, and then you press on that and the plug will come out. It's a little hard to do one-handed while not looking at the car, but there you go. Okay, once you've done all that, you just take this and just pull it off and set it to the side, so that way nothing gets tangled when we go to take the bumper off. Okay, while we have this eye level, we need to get under these lights. So to do so, we're going to take off our license plate bracket here. And there's two T30s. And one there. Carefully pull that away from the car. Now when we take the license plate lights out, they are gonna hang down. So I'm just gonna put some tape here just so nothing gets scratched when we go to do that. Okay, then you can take a really tiny flathead and you just press in on this little clip. As I said before, we're just gonna let that hang for a moment. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so just press that little clip in and this will rock down. Then you can just disconnect these and you can push the cable up here so it doesn't get caught on anything. And they're the exact same part number, so if you get them mixed up, it doesn't really matter, it's all the same thing. Okay, so let's lower the car so we can take off the wing and some of the upper components, and then we'll have access to some screws, and this bumper should be off in just a couple minutes. So now you want to make sure that you have some kind of fender cover because we are going to need to lean over the car. There are 3 T30s out here, and then they're gonna be really hard to see, but there's a T30, it's like up here, over here, and then one right down here. So we need to remove this. Then there's also another fastener over here. And then we're going to be able to remove this carbon, just move it out of the way. And then we have to get this off, then this off, then this off. So a little bit of a process, but just take it slow and mark your bolts so you know where everything goes. Okay, and that's what that looks like. Okay, and that's what the inside ones look like. And then the last one is a little awkward to get to. And I wouldn't recommend using any power tools up here. I would just do it with a T30 Torx driver. Okay, then you can get this piece here. You can just very carefully lift it up. Okay, and then put it in a very safe place. Okay, then you can take a flathead and just very carefully twist that a little bit. It's kind of like a little corkscrew. It pops right out once you turn it about 90 degrees or so. And then once you do that, you should have room to just pivot this out of the way. Now, typically you don't need to fully remove it because you just need to be able to get here, and then this lifts pretty much straight out. So up to you if you want to completely remove it, but at this time we're just gonna make it so we can get it out of the way. So once you've done this on this side, you could do the exact same thing on the other. So now what we're going to do is we are going to remove this piece of trim here. It's held in by 3 T30s, so there's one right here by where my finger is in the middle, and then there's one over here on the end, and then there's also another one on the other end. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the one in the middle and just carefully work this out. Okay, there's bolt number 1. Now let's get the other 2. So right now we have the carbon loose, we have it out of the way. We have these 3 T30s undone. So what we're gonna do now, there's these grommets that hold this component in. So the way to do this is I like to just get my hand in here You just slowly pull up like that. And then go like that. And then just, again, just be very careful as you're doing it. Make sure that you're not hitting any of the carbon. And then it's going to flip up just like this. And you'll notice we have a fender guard over the wing to protect it. And then what you want to do is you just want to take this connection here and you want to disconnect it. And then you can put this piece in a safe place. So just so you know where those connection points are, there's one here, one in the middle, and then one on the other side. And this is where they connect into. And although this, and that are very, very tiny, they have a crazy strong grip. So just keep that in mind. So next we need to remove the 10 mil here and also the 10 mil over here. Here's one, just for reference, that's what it looks like. Next, there's a triple square we need to get to, but to get to it, you need to remove these two 10 millimeter bolts that hold on this little grommet bracket, we'll call it. Without removing this, it's just completely in your way. So what you can normally do, just gonna unscrew this here, is if you get the one, we're just gonna break this other one free. You can just pivot it up, just like that. Then you could take a 10 triple square and feed it in there. Okay, so this one is a really long bolt. If you don't know what a triple square is, that's what it looks like. So it kind of looks like a gear. If you work on BMW primarily, you're gonna have 1,000 Torx bits. If you work on Audis normally, you're gonna have 1,000 triple square. So just something to note. So once we've done this side, you can feel that the wing is already getting loose. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, and there's number 2. Now there are 2 final 10 millimeters that are holding this on, so we need to get those off so we can pull everything off. So I have it hooked on the one side, and then I have my phone set up so that you can see what it looks like. So there's basically one straight here, and then there's one straight over here. Okay, so there's one of the nuts. Okay, and there's nut number 2. So then you can just get this and just carefully lift straight up, just like that. Now what you're gonna do, remove the T30s. There's one here, 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 and here. So you'll notice the first one is short, second one is longer. So when you're putting them back in, just make sure that you have the longer ones in the back and the shorter ones go up here. Okay, so we just got the bumper off. If you couldn't tell from the video, you do have to pull straight out. This part doesn't come off. We should have mentioned that earlier to you. But anyway, so like I said, this part stays on the car and it just comes straight out. Now, when you first do it for the first time, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but you gotta make sure that you pull it out in separate pieces because there's a T30 here and there's one on the other side as well. So unless you take these two off, you're never gonna get this top part off. And we'll do the one over here. Okay, and just carefully pull this piece off. Now, be careful not to pull it off too quick because, as you'd imagine, there's yet another connection. Okay, so pull that out and then put this in a safe place where it won't get scratched. So what we're going to do now is we are going to effectively end today's video because that concludes the process of how to remove the bumper. The biggest thing to remember when you're doing this is just go slow, take your time, and just double check that you got everything because there are so many nuts and bolts and whatnot. You want to make sure that you have every one because one wrong move could be very, very expensive. Be sure to check out our next video as we install an insane exhaust on this 2017 Audi R8 V10 Plus. Once again, my name is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. If you are interested in any of the tools that we use to do today's project, be sure to see the link links in the description. Once again, my name is Brian. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.